In this module, I'm going to talk about the core components that make up the Find What Moves You program. Core components are the essential elements of any program. They are directly linked to the theory of change model that you've seen in a previous module, and programs that maintain these core components are far more likely to support their intended outcomes. These core components include what is delivered. This is referred to as core activities, as well as how it is delivered. And this is referred to as core processes. You can see these all listed on the right. These core activities and processes are the essential components that make up the structure of every session in Find What Moves You. I will go over each of these in detail, starting with the core activities of the program. The first activity is called check-in and choose. It occurs near the beginning of every session, and participants are directed to notice how they are feeling in that moment, and then respond in a way that meets their needs by selecting a posture or a movement. For example, if they're feeling tired, they might simply lie down. Or if they are feeling really energized or excited, they might do some jumping jacks. The second activity is education. The education portion of each session involves explaining the key concepts associated with the designated theme of the session that day. We aim to teach each of these concepts in a way that is really engaging for participants, and it usually includes some combination of self-reflection and discussion activities. The goal is for each participant to actively engage with these new concepts through these particular activities. The next core activities is the movement, kind of the heart and soul of the entire program. The goal for the movement portion of each session is exposing participants to a wide variety of movement modalities, such as sport-based movements, exercise, yoga, dance, kickboxing, and even more imaginative, free, and creative movement. This could also include a variety of intensity levels in the physical activity portion, from low intensity to high intensity. And the emphasis here is on exploring the experience of movement rather than the outcomes of movement. So we emphasize really reflecting on how the movement is feeling for each participant rather than focusing on outcomes such as what their heart rate is. The goal is to really explore what these things feel like for participants and ultimately find what moves you. A key principle to remember here is that the most enjoyable intensities of physical activity are low to moderate intensities. And supporting enjoyment during physical activity is absolutely crucial for supporting continued physical activity behaviors. In the program, in every session, approximately 50% plus or minus 10% of each lesson should be dedicated to movement activities. And then there is social connection, another core activity. And social connection happens in a lot of ways. It can include group activities or other kinds of icebreaker activities where participants get to know one another. Even some of the movement activities have more of a social component. There is at least one structured opportunity for one-on-one or group interactions in every single session, and usually more. There are also activities, particularly at the beginning of the program, that allow participants to get to know one another and start to feel more connected and a growing sense of belonging within the program. At least one of these kinds of activities or icebreakers should happen at the beginning in session 1 of the Find What Moves You program. Self-reflection is another core activity. In every session, we want participants to have an opportunity to individually think and contemplate the concepts or the questions that are being discussed within the group. This gives them an opportunity to journal if they choose, to write things down, but more importantly, to in some way apply the information or the practices that they are learning to their lives outside of the program. Really to find a way to find what is meaningful to them or what is true for them regarding the concepts that they are learning. So, this includes opportunities for participants to relate the theme or the topic of the day to their own lives in every single session. And we also include an opportunity at the end of each session called Explore More. The Explore More opportunity is an invitation to apply the information or the practices that they learned that day to their lives outside of the program in the coming week. And this is an optional Explore More opportunity. Finally, mindful relaxation is the last core activity. Mindful relaxation practices provide an opportunity to further develop mindfulness skills, such as awareness of thoughts and physical sensations. Each of these core activities that I've presented on the previous several slides represents a vehicle by which to achieve the experiential objectives of the program. However, it's really important that the activities alone would not be meaningful without also implementing the core processes of Find What Moves You. And so we'll turn to those next. And just before I return to core processes, I did want to give you one more summary slide of all of the activities in the program. Here you can see all of the activities together one more time, and this provides you with the basic building blocks of each and every session. Although the order of activities does differ a little bit from session to session, generally speaking, they begin with the check-in and choose activity, move on to some form of education, and learning the concept or the theme of the day, and then into the movement activity. Opportunities for social connection and self-reflection are likely sprinkled throughout the session. And then near the end, we typically close the session near the end with the mindful relaxation activity. Moving on now to core processes. So the core processes are, again, the manner by which instructors should engage with youth or should deliver the core activities. These core processes include supports for competence, autonomy, body appreciation, and mindfulness of the mind and the body during movement activities. These first set of core processes all have to do with things that are occurring during the movement portion of each session specifically. Another important core process is fostering a compassionate and inclusive environment in general throughout all the activities of the program. So I'm going to talk about each of these processes, starting with the core processes that make an appearance during the movement activities in particular. And these are particularly critical for supporting the intended outcomes of the program. Let's start with competence. So competence support from the instructor helps participants feel capable of participating in the activity by providing clear instructions for the activity, as well as promoting effort, engagement, process, and growth. As you can see here, the theme is all about emphasizing the experience of moving and the process of moving rather than outcomes that might be associated with movement. Autonomy support is all about providing opportunities to choose, to self-select the level and the mode of participation in the activity. This could include things like giving options for intensity or providing lots of modifications and different ways to engage with the movement. The instructor wants to make sure that the participant has the freedom to explore the movement themselves. And then body appreciation. Body appreciation support includes cueing during the movement activity that helps the participants draw their attention and focus to the functionality, the strength, and appreciation and gratitude for what their bodies can do. This is in direct opposition to thinking about what their bodies look like or the appearance of their bodies. So the focus on body appreciation support is on functionality over appearance. And then supports for mindfulness of the mind and the body. Supporting mindfulness of the mind and body during movement involves encouraging participants to notice their physical sensations, the way their bodies feel, their thoughts, their emotions, and doing all of this without judgment, with a sense of openness and acceptance. During the movement activities, instructors might cue them to notice their breathing or to notice how the movement feels in their bodies. We also include these little opportunities called mindful moments. These are mindful pauses during the movement activities where the instructor cues everyone to just pause where they are and connect a little bit more with their breath or their body just to notice what they feel right in that moment. That's another more structured way to just reinforce this idea of experiencing mindfulness of the body. Moving on to our more general core processes, compassion and inclusion. Let's start with compassion. In order to foster a compassionate environment, what we mean is that the instructor does things like express kindness, empathy, and common humanity, which simply refers to this idea that we all go through hard things in life and we all struggle, and that's what connects us as human beings. The instructor emphasizes kind and compassionate responding in the face of struggle, challenge, learning, or discomfort. And we really want this compassionate environment to permeate everything that is done within the Find What Moves You program. Compassion in Find What Moves You also means supporting participants both physically and emotionally. Some examples of compassionate behaviors include active listening, where we pay attention to participants' needs, challenges, and goals without judgment. Instructors can also do this by using eye contact, smiling, nodding, and reflecting what we hear to show our understanding and to validate participants' experiences. Another example is using supportive communication, which includes offering encouragement and gentle guidance to individuals, especially when they are facing difficulties or setbacks. And finally, our last core process of the program is inclusivity. In terms of creating an inclusive environment, instructors apply inclusive practices by showing unconditional positive regard and accepting and validating all emotions, thoughts, experiences, backgrounds, abilities, bodies, and so on and so forth. Find What Moves You instructors strive to create an environment where everyone feels welcomed, respected, and able to participate, regardless of their backgrounds, abilities, or identities. This includes ensuring accessibility by offering movement modifications and accommodating individuals' different abilities and needs. We also promote equal opportunities for all participants to engage, to share, to contribute, while encouraging diverse perspectives. Finally, instructors practice cultural sensitivity by being mindful of diverse backgrounds and experiences. So, in conclusion, I'd like to just bring us back to this core component slide that shows you all of the core activities and all of the core processes. Hopefully, at this point in your training, you have a little bit of an understanding of what each of the activities is in a general sense, and a little bit of an understanding of what the processes are.